Welcome to another Dog Mind Gears podcast. If you search the internet for a pet right now, there's actually a 10% chance you are actively looking for an animal that weighs less than a gallon of milk, which is just wild to think about.
Yeah, it really is. It's a total inversion of what we used to see.
Right.
Yes.
Like for decades, the cultural image of getting a dog was, throwing a tennis ball across this giant sprawling backyard or like packing a golden retriever into the family station wagon.
Exactly. The classic American dream dog.
But looking at this massive stack of research we are jumping into for today's deep dive, that whole traditional dream has just completely transformed.
It really has. I mean, the data shows we are right in the middle of this massive global shift toward microdogs.
Yeah.
Like when you look at Japan's 2026 breed rankings, mixed small dogs under 10 kilograms, they didn't just chart. They actually claimed the #1 spot for the second year in a row.
Wow, 2 years.
Yeah. They are outperforming every single larger breed. And the U.S. data is mirroring that trend beautifully. In the 2025 online adoption metrics, Chihuahuas alone are capturing over 10% of all breed-specific search traffic.
10% of the entire internet's breed searches focused on a dog that, maxes out at 6 pounds?
Pretty much, yeah.
That is just fascinating to me. I mean, it tells me that you guys, people out there, still desperately want that fiercely loyal canine companionship, but you're adapting it to modern, dense city living.
Oh, for sure. Space is at a premium right now.
So our goal today is to really figure out how to navigate this microdog world. We've got fresh American Kennel Club data, global search metrics, and some truly mind-blowing 2025 genetics studies.
Some of the genetic stuff is just incredible.
It really is. I want to figure out how people are actually choosing these tiny companions, how their frankly bizarrely vast personalities match up with our daily routines, and how new science is pushing their lifespans further than ever before.
Well, I think the first hurdle for most new owners is just realizing that small is not a personality trait.
Right.
There's this massive misconception that all toy breeds are just passive lap warmers.
Yeah.
But in reality, the energy spectrum across these tiny dogs is incredibly vast.
Yeah, I noticed that immediately when looking at the profiles for the Chihuahua, the Pomeranian, and the French Bulldog.
Oh, they couldn't be more different.
Right. They are all physically tiny, but they sound like entirely different species when it comes to their daily behavior. Like, Chihuahuas are dominating those search stats, and physically they seem quite manageable for a busy professional. They only need, maybe 20 to 30 minutes of actual exercise a day?
Yeah, just a short walk is usually fine for them. But emotionally, the literature describes them as intensely demanding.
Okay, what does that mean exactly? Intensely demanding.
Well, they are highly emotional dogs. Chihuahuas have this intense loyalty trait where they will frequently bond to just one or two specific people in a household.
Oh, interesting. So they pick their favorite person.
Exactly. And they become hyper-focused and just incredibly protective of their chosen humans. They have this very alert, vigilant presence. It's like they project an attitude that suggests they own the entire neighborhood, regardless of their actual size.
I mean, I see that all the time on the street. A tiny Chihuahua literally staring down a massive delivery truck.
Yeah, they have no concept of how small they are.
But then you look at the Pomeranian, which just bounced up to the #5 spot in the 2026 Japanese rankings, and it's a completely different emotional profile. The data describes them as these fluffy, boundless extroverts.
Oh, Pomeranians operate on a much, much higher physical energy frequency.
Like bouncing off the walls?
Pretty much. They're incredibly social and they just love a good, chaotic romp.
Yeah.
Now, because of their size, they don't necessarily need a sprawling backyard to burn off that energy. Like a long hallway in an apartment can sometimes suffice for a sprint.
That's a great tip for managing a small dog's energy in a compact space. Just hallway fetch.
Exactly. But they do have an explosive enthusiasm. That makes them fantastic companions for families with older children who want a dog that can learn tricks and play actively.
Okay, older children. Why just older?
Well, there is a structural caveat there. A Pomeranian skeletal system is highly fragile. Their bones are delicate, meaning they require constant vigilant supervision if they are placed in households with very young, uncoordinated toddlers.
Ah, right. Because a toddler could just accidentally fall on them.
Exactly. You have to be so careful with toddlers who might handle them roughly. So if you're a first-time owner with active young children, a POM might be a bit risky unless you are constantly supervising.
That makes total sense. So if you are a senior citizen looking for a companion, or say you live in a tiny studio apartment with really thin walls, a high-energy Pom or a highly vocal Chihuahua might actually be a terrible fit.
Right? Despite their small footprint, they could drive you and your neighbors crazy.
So what's the alternative?
In those specific scenarios, you really want to look toward the other end of the spectrum. The French Bulldog is heavily favored for dense city living precisely because of its low physical output.
Okay, so they're the ultimate apartment dog.
Exactly. A brief walk or a really short indoor play session easily meets their daily exercise requirements. And more importantly, for apartment dwellers, they rarely bark.
That is a huge plus.
It is. And similarly, if we're talking about elderly pet owners, the Yorkshire Terrier is heavily recommended in the literature.
Oh, Yorkies. Really?
Yeah. Yorkies provide intense companionship and warmth without the physical strain of needing miles of walking every day. That lower exercise requirement is a massive health benefit for older owners who maybe can't get out as much but still want that daily bond.
Okay, I want to circle back to that Chihuahua attitude for a second, though. We see these tiny dogs acting like they're 10 feet tall. Is that just a Napoleon complex? Like, do we accidentally encourage that sass because we think it's hilarious when a 6-pound dog acts tough? Or is that vigilance actually hardwired into them?
The behavioral science leans heavily toward hardwiring, actually.
Really? It's genetic.
Yeah. We have to remember that big personalities and small frames are usually historical, functional features that breeders selected for over centuries.
Oh, like working dogs, but tiny.
Exactly. Take the Dachshund, for example, which recently surged into the top 5 of the 2025 AKC rankings. Visually, they are low-riding dogs with elongated backs.
Right, the classic wiener dog.
But historically, they were bred in Germany for the highly dangerous subterranean work of hunting badgers.
Wait, they were hunting badger. I mean, those animals are notoriously vicious.
They are. And to flush a badger out of its set, a dog needed an incredibly loud bark to be heard underground, thick skin to withstand bites, and just an almost irrational level of courage.
Wow.
So that fearless, stubborn streak isn't an accident. It is a vital survival trait, literally etched into their DNA.
That is crazy.
And similarly, the Chihuahua's alert protectiveness is an innate genetic feature. The secret for any owner is understanding that you are inviting a specific hardwired energy into your home, and you have to work with that genetic reality rather than fighting it.
So if we apply that logic to the French Bulldog, which seems completely content to just, exist quietly on a rug, what is going on neurologically there? Why are they so fundamentally different in their energy expenditure compared to a dachshund?
Well, to understand the Frenchie's calm energy, we actually have to look directly at their skull morphology.
Their skull shape.
Yeah. This brings us to a concept researchers call the brachycephalic paradox.
This paradox is so fascinating to me because the French Bulldog has held the American Kennel Club's #1 breed spot for 4 straight years now. They completely dethroned the Labrador.
Yep, they're everywhere.
But they are brachycephalic. Their flat face skull structure causes well-documented serious breathing problems, especially in heat or humidity. They physically struggle to pull enough air into their lungs.
It is a profound structural challenge. But the 2025 behavioral data reveals something incredible about why people are so drawn to them anyway.
Let's hear it.
So, a massive study analyzing over 5,000 dogs found that brachycephalic breeds exhibit significantly higher levels of calmness and boldness, coupled with lower obedience when called, compared to dogs with longer snouts.
Okay, but my initial assumption reading that was that the calmness is just physical exhaustion. I mean, if I was struggling to breathe, I'd probably be pretty calm on the sofa, too. Is it just a lack of oxygen?
It's actually much more complex than just physical fatigue. The researchers found that these behavioral traits, the calmness, the low reactivity, are genetically linked to the skull morphology itself.
Wait, really? The skull shape dictates the behavior?
Yeah. In genetics, there is a concept called pleiotropy, where a single gene affects multiple, seemingly unrelated traits. It appears that generations of breeding for that specific flat-faced appearance inadvertently pulled along a cluster of neurological traits that naturally suppress high-energy reactivity.
That is wild.
I know. The shape of their head is quite literally packaged genetically with an incredibly chill demeanor.
Okay, but this brings up an Italian study of 320 owners of brachycephalic dogs that completely stopped me in my tracks.
Oh, I know the one you mean.
81% of those owners rated their dog's health as good to excellent, even when veterinary records showed the dogs had documented clinical problems. Wait, 81% of owners say their dog is perfectly healthy even when they can barely breathe. Are they just in denial? Or is the human-animal bond literally blinding them to the snoring and the struggles because the dog is just so cute?
That tension right there is the very definition of the brachycephalic paradox.
Right.
The sociological data suggests these owners aren't entirely ignorant of the medical facts. Instead, their emotional attachment and the dog's lifestyle compatibility are so high that they essentially override the medical reality.
Because the dog fits their life so well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Modern city dwellers desperately want a pet that doesn't bark at the neighbors, doesn't destroy the apartment out of boredom, and is perfectly happy, relaxing indoors.
And the Frenchie delivers that.
Flawlessly.
Yeah.
The owners value that psychological compatibility so highly that they accept and often mentally minimize the physical health costs.
That trade-off is wild to think about. You are essentially selecting a perfect roommate behaviorally, but you're taking on a host of structural vulnerabilities.
Absolutely.
And looking at the broader veterinary data, it seems like structural vulnerability is a hidden hurdle for almost all tiny dogs, not just the flat-faced ones.
It is a critical reality check for anyone entering the microdog world.
Yeah.
Small size absolutely does not equate to perfect health.
Right.
We talked about the dachshund's incredible history hunting badgers, but that elongated spine creates an immense lever action of stress on their vertebrae.
Ouch.
Yeah, they are highly susceptible to catastrophic back injuries, simply from jumping off a sofa or navigating a steep flight of stairs.
And what about the Chihuahuas and Poms? The literature constantly mentions luxating patellas.
Yes, luxating patella is incredibly common in toy breeds. From a biomechanical standpoint, the trochlear groove, which is the little channel at the bottom of the thigh bone where the kneecap is supposed to slide up and down, is often too shallow in these tiny dogs.
Oh, I see. So it just doesn't fit right.
Right. So as the dog walks or runs, the kneecap literally pops out of the groove and slides to the side.
That sounds awful.
It causes them to suddenly hop on 3 legs. It requires careful weight management and sometimes even surgical intervention to fix.
That sounds incredibly painful. But there's another daily health hurdle that seems completely universal across every single small breed. Every source we looked at just hammers on dental disease.
Oh, it is the absolute biggest issue.
I have to ask, because we all hear our vets lecture us about brushing a dog's teeth, but for these tiny dogs, is brushing those minuscule teeth really a life or death deal breaker? Or is it just an extra credit chore for, overachieving pet parents?
No, it is the absolute foundation of their long-term health. It is definitely not extra credit.
Really? Why is it worse for small dogs?
To understand why, you just have to look at the anatomy of a tiny dog's mouth. A Yorkshire Terrier has the exact same number of adult teeth as a Great Dane.
Wait, what?
Yeah, 42 teeth. But in a Yorkie, those 42 teeth are crammed into a jaw that is maybe 2 inches long.
Oh, wow. So they are just stacked on top of each other.
The crowding is severe. The teeth often overlap or rotate to fit, which creates these perfect deep little pockets where saliva just cannot naturally wash away food particles.
Oh, gross.
Right. Plaque and tartar build up at an astonishing rate, leading to rampant periodontal disease. And the reason this is a life or death issue is the vascular system.
How does that connect to the teeth?
When the gums become infected, that barrier breaks down, and massive amounts of anaerobic bacteria enter the dog's bloodstream every single time they chew their food.
And that bacteria travels straight to the major organs.
Precisely. The bacteria taxes the heart valves, the liver, and the kidneys. Breeds like Chihuahuas and Yorkies have the genetic potential to live exceptionally long lives, 14, sometimes 16 years.
That's a huge commitment.
It is. But chronic dental disease will systematically destroy their internal organs and drastically cut those golden years short.
So simple daily habits actually extend their lifespan.
Hugely. Regular brushing, keeping up with dental cleanings, and maintaining basic grooming like keeping a Yorkie's nails trimmed so their toes don't splay, or brushing out a Pomeranian's double coat to prevent skin tearing mats. These are not cosmetic chores. They are vital, life-extending healthcare.
That really reframes the whole concept of a low-maintenance small dog. I mean, breeds like the Shih Tzu are constantly recommended for beginners because of their friendly, adaptable nature. But a new owner still has to be ready to establish a rigid schedule.
Oh, definitely.
Not just for house training a tiny bladder, but for desensitizing the dog to having its mouth and paws handled safely every single day.
Absolutely. The training for a small dog is less about controlling a large, powerful animal and much more about cooperative care. You're teaching the dog to tolerate the daily maintenance required to keep their tiny, fragile bodies functioning optimally.
Now, speaking of optimal functioning and maximizing those lifespans, I was looking at this 2025 genetic mapping data, and honestly, it reads like science fiction.
It really does. It's moving so fast.
What we are able to do before a puppy is even born is just staggering.
The breakthroughs in canine genetics over the last 2 years have fundamentally changed veterinary medicine. We are no longer just treating diseases, we are systematically isolating them at the source.
Let's look at that Dachshund study published in the Journal of Veterinary and Animal Science. They tracked a widespread DNA testing initiative targeting a condition called progressive retinal atrophy, or PRA, which causes gradual blindness.
Right.
By utilizing targeted screening, breeders actually reduced the number of high-risk miniature dachshunds by 70%.
A 70% reduction in an inherited disease is a monumental achievement. And what makes this so remarkable is the precision of it all.
How so?
Well, breeders aren't just eliminating dogs from the gene pool randomly, which would ruin the breed's overall genetic diversity. They're using DNA markers to selectively pair dogs, ensuring that the offspring do not inherit the two recessive copies of the mutated gene required to cause the blindness.
It's basically a genetic spell checker. They are scanning the breed's code, finding the specific typographical error that causes blindness, and safely editing it out of the next generation.
That is a highly accurate way to visualize it. And the 2025 research goes even deeper into the actual mechanics of size itself.
Whoa, this was fascinating.
There was a massive study analyzing the coding variation in over 2,000 dogs, and researchers identified specific variants in a gene called LCORL.
LCORL.
Right. These variants are directly associated with canine body size, specifically restricting growth in dogs under 10 kilograms.
So, wait, are we actually at the point where we can point to a single genetic switch that makes a dog tiny?
We are isolating the specific regulatory dials. The LCORL gene acts essentially like a volume knob for skeletal growth.
Wow.
By mapping exactly how these variants work, breeders can intentionally select for that small, compact body size without accidentally dragging along neighboring genetic mutations that might increase disease risks.
That's incredible.
They can finally separate the trait of being small from the trait of being unhealthy.
And all of this precision directly fuels longevity, right? Like the Royal Veterinary College recently published a study analyzing 28,000 Yorkshire Terriers, and they proved that Yorkies live an average of 13.56 years.
Which is fantastic.
When you consider that the overall average for all dog breeds combined is only 12 years, that is a massive statistical advantage.
It is. Small dogs generally do age slower. From a purely mechanical standpoint, carrying around 6 or 10 pounds of body weight creates significantly less oxidative stress on their cells.
Makes sense.
And there's way less physical wear and tear on their joints and organ systems over a decade compared to, say, an 80-pound animal.
That longevity brings up a debate I see constantly among first-time owners, though.
Oh, the mutt versus purebred debate.
Exactly. The global market data shows that mixed small breeds make up roughly 40% of all new dog acquisitions in some areas. A lot of people choose a small mixed breed specifically because they want that natural hybrid vigor, assuming a mutt will automatically have fewer inherited health issues.
Right. That's a very common assumption.
So based on the new science, is it better to rely on the natural genetic lottery of a mixed breed or the targeted DNA testing of a purebred?
Well, the beauty of the current scientific landscape is that both paths offer incredible, highly viable advantages.
Okay, so there's no wrong answer.
Not really. Mixed breeds absolutely benefit from a wider gene pool. That natural genetic diversity suppresses many recessive inherited diseases because the mutations just don't have a chance to align. They are historically very robust animals. However, the 2025 genetic boom means that responsible, purebred breeders are no longer flying blind. With advanced DNA screening for things like PRA or specific structural markers, breeders can achieve surgical precision in avoiding defects.
So you can literally screen the bad stuff out.
Exactly. And because all small dogs naturally carry less mechanical stress on their systems, whether you choose the diverse genetics of a mixed breed or the screened precision of a purebred, you have a fantastic shot at well over a decade of healthy companionship.
It really is an amazing time to be a dog owner. To bring all of this together for everyone listening, the core truth jumping out of these sources is that you do not need an acre of land to experience incredible canine companionship. The paradigm has shifted entirely.
It really has. The emotional depth and the presence these microdogs bring into a home is immense, completely, regardless of their square footage requirements.
Absolutely. Whether you are looking for the bouncy, trick-learning energy of a Pomeranian for your older kids, the warm, low-impact watchfulness of a Yorkie for an aging relative, or the incredibly calm, quiet adaptability of a Frenchie for your downtown studio, the secret is aggressively matching their hardwired energy to your actual daily routine.
And being honest about what you can handle.
Definitely. And once you find that match, committing to the hidden daily habits, brushing those crowded teeth to protect their heart, managing their environment to protect their fragile spines, and utilizing modern genetic screening, that is the ultimate recipe for a long, happy life together.
The science and the daily care really have to work hand in hand.
They really do. But before we wrap up today's deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder. We just explored how scientists are literally isolating the volume knobs for skeletal growth and editing out inherited diseases with absolute precision.
It's amazing.
But if we project that genetic capability forward 10 years, what will the perfect city dog actually look like? Will we use this technology to engineer the ultimate, flawless, hyper-calm, tiny companion that perfectly matches our strict apartment leases and our super busy schedules?
That's a heavy question.
Right, or is the chaotic, stubborn badger hunting sass of a dachshund, or the 10-foot-tall protective vigilance of a Chihuahua exactly the kind of wild, unengineered energy we secretly crave to balance out our highly controlled modern lives? Think about that the next time you see a 6-pound dog fearlessly staring down a delivery truck.
I definitely will.
To find out more about the tiny dog breeds, jump at Dogzilla magazine to read their in-depth article on this topic.